Ready or Not is about a young woman named Grace who has just married into a wealthy family who made their fortune in board games and card games and sports teams, and at midnight on her wedding night, she's forced to take part in a family tradition in which she has to pull a card from a box to see what game she will have to play. But if she pulls the hide and seek card, then she'll have to hide while the family hunt her down and try to kill her. There's a bit more to it about a family curse and the actual rules of the game, but that is the simple premise. It's a horror action comedy. I had a hard time with this because I can tell that most people will like it and will be entertained by it, but I wasn't really. The audience I saw it with really seemed to be into it, and I thought it was okay. I was never bored, but it just didn't seem to be working for me. I liked the premise okay, and the comedy was okay, and the characters were okay. It wasn't really scary, but I appreciated that there were only a couple of cheap jump scares. The actors were fine, and at 95 minutes, it's the perfect length for a story like this. The funniest moments are when the family members react to how they have to play the game. They have to play it as if it's happening in the time of the great-grandfather who started the tradition, so they aren't allowed to use the house security cameras, and they can only use old-timey weapons like crossbows and axes and old hunting rifles. Anytime one of them makes a comment like, I really expected to know how to use this crossbow, and if great-grandfather had security cameras, he probably would have used them. I also thought they did a pretty good job showing why Grace's husband, who does love her and doesn't want to see her die, would let something like this happen to her. I said the cast was fine, and they were, except for Adam Brody, who I thought was great. I found his character to be surprisingly the most sympathetic, which is mostly because of how he plays it. He's the most reluctant and torn between his duty to his family and his aversion to this whole bloody tradition. One thing I was surprised by was that the family are not like expert hunters or something. They don't do this all the time. Some of them are really into the whole thing and some aren't, but none of them are skilled, which is where all of the comedy comes from. The satire of what would happen if ordinary rich people had to hunt someone down with 19th century weapons. They'd fuck it up. They'd be incredibly stupid looking. They do pull off that aspect of it, but like I say, it just didn't really work for me. It didn't help that the family members keep repeating the plot and why they're doing all this and the consequences if they don't find her and kill her before dawn to each other over and over, in case the audience was too stupid to remember what's going on in this very short film with a very simple plot. It also felt like they were trying too hard to be funny in some places, particularly every time someone swears. It just felt very off, like the idea of these people swearing and not being polite was weird and funny in itself. Kind of like if a nun started shouting swear words, like it was going for a similar effect to that, but, you know, there might actually work. And they keep shouting about what's happening in disbelief in a way that reminded me of Ed Helms in the Hangover films.
What the fuck is going on? What the fuck is going on? I don't know, let me look.
Only there it made sense because they actually didn't know what was going on. And here it just feels like the directors asked them to shout something without actually giving them a line of dialogue to actually shout. I thought the film with a premise like this would have more suspense, and it tries, but there are a lot of scenes where one of the family members will find Grace in some room and they'll shout out that she's here. And then there are other times where she herself is shouting or screaming in pain or fear, and somehow no one hears her, and mostly it plays it for laughs more than thrills. We never really know where anybody is in relation to anyone else, so there isn't much of a looming fear that she's about to be found. And that brings me to my main issue with the film, and it's with the way the whole thing is shot. Most scenes are filmed in a medium or close-up shot with a shallow depth of field. There are rarely establishing shots of the environment. They're clearly filming inside a real house, but they won't show it. I wanted to see it, but I couldn't. Everything about it made it seem like a low-budget production that couldn't land a believable location, so they had to shoot around it. There's never a shot where we actually get to see what the house looks like from the outside. Important places like the games room where the ritual takes place is only shown in very quick wides. I wanted to see this place. It's supposed to be showing how opulently wealthy these people are, but other than them talking a lot about how rich they are and that they live in a mansion, we don't really see it. Even during the opening credits, when the camera's panning over all these board games and through this house, it pans too fast, so the games and their titles are blurred, and this happens a lot. Even the action scenes and the fight scenes are shot far too close, so everything's confusing and hard to take in. It seems like it has good production design and it's lit very well, but they don't show off this location at all, which doesn't help with the storytelling and the scene construction because there was never any establishment of the geography of the house, We never know where Grace is, where the exits are, where the house itself is. When we find out later, it's in the middle of the woods or something. You know what I think happened? I think they began shooting and they had everything looking great, and then they thought, maybe if people are actually able to see the location our entire film takes place in, they might notice that all this is taking place at Billy Madison's house.
Shut up!
I also thought they could have done more with the Grace character. She was likable enough, but I was disappointed that she never really does anything clever or uses any sort of ingenuity to get out of any desperate situations that she finds herself in. Other than just physically defending herself when she's called upon to do so, she mostly just gets helped by either her husband or Adam Brody's character. I could also see the end coming very clearly, and when it came to it, I thought that maybe they would surprise me, and if they had gone the way they tried to make us think they were going to go, it would have been better, and it would have been a lot funnier. And there's this weird thing at the end where suddenly the family are Satan worshippers. Where did that come from? I know the films like this are supposed to be making fun of vapid, soulless, rich people, but to me it actually comes across more like it's making fun of not rich people who think that they're being purposefully victimized by rich people. Like, rich people hunting poor people for sport is not really an accurate enough exaggeration of real life, which seems mostly to be rich people just not really concerning themselves with the effects, negative or otherwise, that they have on other people. I'm going to give Ready or Not a C. I do recommend this film because I think that most people who like the sound of the premise and the genre will like it, but it just, for some reason, wasn't really for me. And I think that that was mostly because of how it was filmed. Thank you very much for watching my review. Please like and subscribe. It helps me out. It helps my channel grow. Follow me on Twitter at LukeToTheMovies. Comment down below. Let me know if you've seen Ready or Not, what you thought of it, if you liked it or disliked it, if you agree or disagree with any of my comments, or if you have any points of your own. I'll be back soon with more reviews, and I will see you then.